There it is.
We are live, I think, Justin. Here we go.
There
So,
it is.
welcome everybody to our first 208 Fantasy Football live stream. I'm your host, Matt, and I have Justin with me, and we are talking NFL draft predictions in 5 days. It started right now. Well, Justin, here we are. We are 5 days away from the NFL draft. I'm super excited. I know you're super excited. Um, what's your thoughts? What have you been reviewing, researching? What do you see? What's on your mind lately?
The biggest thing, I mean, the Antonio Brown tweeting out that Justin Herbert's going to get traded during
Yeah.
the draft. I mean, that's a crazy one that I saw. And then Brandon Ayuk, I don't know if it was his agent or his brother or something, saying like there's going to be fireworks in 6 days. That was
Yep.
on Friday. So it's just like super interesting. Like being a Falcons fan, like the draft is like my Super Bowl. So I get super excited about adding new guys. So I'm pretty excited for it. Like I love the draft. It's one of my favorite seasons. So.
I agree 100%. It is like Christmas for me. It is, and we're 5 days away from it, and all the presents get unwrapped for different teams. And I, as a Bears fan, and we're going to talk about, they have two draft picks here in the first 10 picks here. We'll see what they're going to do. We have our predictions, and uh, let's get into it and see where it takes us.
So Matt's gonna do odds
Yeah,
since he wants to draft for his Bears team, and I'm gonna do evens so I can draft for my Falcons and go from
absolutely,
there.
absolutely. And the Bears obviously have the 1-9 pick this year, so I'm so curious to see what they're going to do. They've done some. Uh, I don't know, things that didn't pan out in drafts in the past. So here's your draft order, and we'll go through each item as we go here. So Bears, I think this one's going to be an easy pick right out of the gate. I think it's no secret. They're going to go with Caleb Williams. It's pretty straightforward. They've been covered him. I know they were looking at other draft picks or brought other quarterbacks in and all those little things, but this is a no brainer. In my mind, he's the best pocket passer. He's the best mechanically sound quarterback in this year's draft. It's pretty easy. Um, he's got all the intangibles. The one question I have is leadership ability with him. That's the
Yeah,
only thing I'm not sure. He kind of does his things his way, and I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. We'll just kind of see how it pans out. So
yeah, he's definitely like I think as the drafts keep going, like more of these guys, more of these polarizing prospects are going to do things that are what they want to do. They're very individualistic, and not to say that's a bad thing. That's just how people are today, and I think he's going to be a stud. Um, I think this is a pick that you write pen as of now. So I really think the draft starts at two. I mean,
yep,
it's got a little wonky. So we'll kind of
yep,
move on to that. Number two, with all this stuff coming out about what Washington's doing, um, we think they're going to go Jaden Daniels. It makes the most sense for us. When they had this big old meeting, I think this weekend or Friday, where they brought all these quarterbacks in and they had them
right,
all coming together. I heard a lot of back and forth on Twitter about like, well, it's breeding competition, and as a Falcons fan, having Dan Quinn as a previous coach, like he's a big competition guy. So I think they wanted to see how they interacted with each other, who kind of dominated those four quarterbacks. Um, it seemed like Jaden Daniels' agent was a little irritated by that. It seems like there is some connection between Jaden Daniels and obviously his previous head college coach and Antonio Pierce being at the Raiders. Them coming up from 13-2 is a big ask. It's a huge ask, and the Commanders have to get a quarterback. So
yep,
I don't see them trading out of this pick. What Jaden Daniels did last year in LSU was nuts. Like he was the deep balls he threw, all that stuff.
yeah.
He's a freak athlete. So I mean, I don't think there's any reason to move off this pick. I don't know what the Raiders can really offer you for you to get off this pick and go all the way back to 13 and
Yeah.
risk not having a quarterback going to the season. Like I dealt with Marcus Mariota last year or 2 years ago or whatever it was, and I don't think he is a starting quarterback in the NFL. So I mean, you got to go get your quarterback at two. That's what I think.
I agree. This was all Mr. Quarterback everything. He won all the awards, Heisman's, the Walter Camp, Davey O'Brien, all those awards. 10 rushing touchdowns, 40 passing touchdowns, over 3,800 yards passing. He only had 4 interceptions, and I get it. He has 2 first-round elite wide receivers, right? I get that, but the kid can flat out play. He's a baller. There were some questions around is he going to play at a little bit heavier weight? I think he was a little bit lighter than what he is now. It says 210 on the screen here, and I think he might have been a little lighter.
Yeah,
But it's the running quarterback thing. I agree with you. Cliff Kingsbury, it fits his system. This is a lock to me. These first 2 picks to me seem to be rubber stamp them, put them on there. There will always be talk, and you're going to hear me reference this a lot throughout this stream. But the smoke season, right. Teams will talk. Nobody is broadcasting what they're doing right now. It's all like, hey, what about this or what if that type of stuff. So I'm with you. Lock it in. Commanders get their
and like
guy, get their quarterback of the future too.
one thing to kind of like add on to this, like we're 2 and 3 are a little like are substantially different from you. Like we'll get into the Patriots pick. Like the Commanders signed a ton of veterans this offseason. Like he's gonna have a good locker room to go into, and like
Yeah.
I think they're gonna be ready to go. Like the NFC East is still a tough division with the Cowboys and the Eagles and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I think he's ready to go. They have some weapons with Terry McLaurin and Dotson, who I think are good. So I mean, it's just
Yeah.
them filling out the rest of their roster. Like they spent a lot of money on defense, so I think they'll be ready to go with their roster. So
Agreed. And the little addition of Eckler too, right? I think that does help. Eckler, I think in my mind's probably past his prime a little bit, but he's still serviceable. I think he probably, from a fantasy value, is going to be good early on, and we'll see how he does later. But we'll see how he's good. So I'm with
like
you. Lock him in at 2. To me, there's no other choice there, and we're going to go right to New England Patriots. To me, right, this is where the draft starts. There are so many things. There's so much news out there, so much smoke about there. What New England's going to do? There's talk of May. There's talk of could JJ move up? Could they trade out for a receiver and leave Brissett back there to manage just the weapons that they have and just try to get more built around him and worry about a quarterback next year? And for me, Drake May is their guy. I think that he is a little bit of a project. He's a hard worker for sure. He had 3,600 passing yards last year, 24 TDs, 9 interceptions. Hard worker. He can throw the ball. He can zip it. He's big and mobile for sure. He kind of reminds me of a little bit of a young Roethlisberger. I think you can build around him. You can leverage Brissett there for a while. Whether it's the full year and let him go, I don't know. Typically, that doesn't happen. They want to kind of throw these early round players in. But I think he still needs time to process the NFL speed, disguises of defense. He's a work in progress, but I think you go and get your guy right now at 3, and not mess with draft picks, not mess with what could be. Do I go out and get Marvin Harrison and all that stuff? Now lock in your guy, start building them around him right away.
for sure, I like the biggest thing with the Patriots, where I see like the biggest difference between the Commanders and the Patriots. Like Patriots have a real bad roster. Like I don't know who he's going to be throwing to. Like I totally understand like how many times are you going to get a chance to pick in the top 5? It just doesn't happen a lot. So like you got to take a shot at your quarterback. I totally understand that. Like if I was a Patriots GM, if I was ever blessed to be GM, I would probably trade back. But that's just my opinion. Like go back and just get King Ransoms from the Giants or the Vikings or whatever it is. Again, like Drake May has those plays where it's like, holy crap, you're a stud, and it's like, what are we doing? Like you just threw right to the defender. So like he has those on and off plays a ton. Again, if he gets to sit for even half a season or a full season with Jacoby Brissett there, they're probably right back up here again with their roster.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the worst idea, and then just keep investing in him with the next draft. So
Yep, I agree that this one is tough. This one could go so many directions. It could be fun. This pick will be so interesting. Whatever happens this pick will dictate the rest of the draft, at least up until something else kind of crazy happens. We know every year there's some type of a panic by a team or whatever goes. They just start reaching. They go up and go grab a guy, and you're like, whoa, what the heck? And it makes the draft all goofy.
So,
Um, I agree from a fantasy football standpoint, Justin, that I don't know if there's anybody that I'm drafting in fantasy off of the Patriots roster. There might be some late value, but as of right now, I'm like, oh, I think I'll wait.
yeah, that's gonna be a rough one. I mean, just like looking at their depth chart, Ramondre, like he was a darling 2 years ago, really good running back. Demario Davis had a really nice rookie year. Hunter Henry, like
It's Hunter Henry.
he's bunched in with tight
Yeah.
ends 9 through 15.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's not a lot that you want. Maybe get their kicker. I don't know if you have a kicker in your league. Maybe kick a lot of goals. I don't.
Yeah, maybe so. Hopefully, it'll surprise us. It's a rebuild in Patriots from head coach all the way down, and I think there's some promise for the Patriots fans. Just got to give it some time. The old Patriots are gone, and that's okay. But give it some time for rebuild, and they're headed the right direction. And that takes us to number 4.
For sure. I think this is a pen pick. I think Marvin Harrison has gotten a lot of prospect fatigue where people are overanalyzing this. Like Jamar Chase came out and people were saying a bunch of stuff about him, and like Marvin Harrison's a freak. I remember that Georgia game where they played Ohio State. I mean Ohio State versus Georgia, and I'm like, Marvin Harrison is a dog. Like I was blown away by him. He's a freak. So I mean, giving Kyler, Marvin Harrison a true number one when he had DeAndre Hopkins, I think will help expedite that money that you gave Kyler Murray. You gave him a ton of money. Now give him a weapon. I love Michael Wilson. I think he balled out his rookie year. Greg Dortch would be a good slot. Trey McBride was awesome last year. Just really broke out finally. So I think giving Kyler this guy will help the Cardinals substantially. I don't know where else you go with the Cardinals. Do they need help on defense? Yeah, I don't think there's a defensive guy that you take high enough in the draft. So I think Marvin Harrison is an easy pick here.
Yeah, I agree. It seems like the most logical. Now, having some friends that are Cardinals fans, the Cardinals don't always do the most logical, and they pick some things, and they're like, oh, "Wait, what are we doing?" So it makes it kind of difficult. But you're right, Marvin Harrison. He's probably the closest out of the box NFL wide receiver, 80 to 90 yards a game, and the touchdown. Right, you throw that on there, and pretty much any team probably gets a little boost with that. With the Cardinals, 1,200 yards, 14 TDs this last year. He, he might not be the fastest guy, but he has all the intangibles. I don't think he's going to blow by NFL cornerbacks, but as far as like elite speed, but he's got everything else. He's got all the tools at every level to do whatever he needs to do to be a top tier wide receiver. So.
And I've seen a lot of pushback, like with how the Cardinals should get offensive tackle, offensive guard. It's like, well, they signed Jonah Williams from a first-round pick.
Right.
They plug him at right tackle. Paris Johnson was the number 6 pick last year. I think he's a stud. Kid's a dancing bear. So I think they're fine O-line wise, and Kyler can get out of the pocket a little bit. So I think this is the pick. I think it's pretty easy.
Yep, slam dunk. There's probably some pushback a little bit because people want what's in front of them now. And remember, no pro day, no combine. He's just out there putting in the work, right? And when you're not in front of the spot like that, people are like, there are teams out there that believe Neighbors is a little bit better than Marvin Harrison, and some analysts kind of say the same thing. And I'm like, I'm not going to necessarily push back on that, but right out of the gate, Marvin Harrison's your guy. Hands down, all day, every day. So
I mean, he's getting pretty good advice. I mean, his dad was pretty good at football. So
yeah, absolutely. So, and he did meet with the Bears too, he met with the Cardinals. He's met with the Bears, which is very interesting.
That would be a very fun fit for the Bears if the Bears came up. But
I was thinking about this the other day. Did he meet with the Bears hoping they would select him at 1? or were they just meeting? Hopefully, he would come back up to that 4-5 range and try to get him. So,
They
but
they
we'll
got
see.
a little bit of ammo to come up. I mean, I think it'd be hard
They
to come
do.
up with 4.
Yeah, I agree.
I think some things would have to happen. So
I agree. Well, that takes us to the fifth overall pick, which the Chargers have, and we are projecting that the Vikings move up with the Chargers and swap. Justin, I'll let you lead the way on this one.
So going into this, like when this whole trade happened, I think right before the combine, it just was super odd to me. I don't think a lot of teams randomly trade up for a first round draft pick. I think that's not very well thought through, and a lot of reports come out like the Vikings have been looking at this draft class for the past 2 years since they had their doubts about Kirk Cousins signing him to another guaranteed deal. Obviously, Kirk left to the Falcons. So I think they needed the ammunition to come up. So if you look at the trade value chart, this adds up pretty equally. So I think when the Vikings went to the combine, they obviously met with the Chargers and said, hey, if this guy or this guy's here, we're going to come up. And this is the pick we're going to have. So if we look on Jimmy Johnson's trade chart, super easy to look up on the internet. The pick 23 is their other pick that they got is worth $760, and then their 11th pick is worth $1250. So if you add those together, it's about $2,000. So there's a little bit of an overpay, which makes sense. Maybe Arizona throws them a 4th or a 5th, but we're just going to say they're going to pay the QB tax on this and come up all the way to 4. The Vikings have to get a quarterback. It seems like that's where they've been all offseason if they need a quarterback. I get Sam Darnold. I have a lot of San Francisco friends that are like, hey, Sam Darnold might be it. Like, he might be better than Brock Purdy. He might be this. He might be that. I think Kevin O'Connell is one of the best coaches in the NFL. Like, what he did with Josh Dobbs, Jaron Hall, Kirk Cousins, phenomenal. You give him a ball of clay to work with quarterback-wise, a young guy. I think that's going to be the best thing for them. So that's how we projected a trade. Like, I feel like trades are hard to do in mock drafts, but like this one just makes so much sense. So why did they get an extra pick? It seems like they got it to move up. So
nope, 100% agree. If the indications by Antonio Brown aren't there, right? I mean, there's conversation of, man, should Herbert move to the Vikings? That tells you how desperately the Vikings are for a quarterback. And I promise you, JJ, right, Justin Jefferson is having conversations with the front office head coach, like, hey, who's going to be my quarterback? We just let go of the guy that I wanted to keep. You let him go to Atlanta, right? So I think it's very critical on who they pick, and I'm pretty sure Justin Jefferson is having those has what's the word I'm looking for? A say into who they're going to pick. So,
I mean, just to go off on a tangent a little bit about this Antonio Brown CTE stuff, his ESPN CTE.
Yeah.
Like, it would be so fun if Justin Herbert got traded to the Vikings. I think it would be such a fun connection and see him with Justin Jefferson. I don't know what that trade looks like. It's a lot, but the Chargers probably get a lot of stuff back, and they just pick JJ McCarthy and Jim Harbaugh gets his guy that he's gassed up this whole draft season. But like Justin Herbert to the Vikings, holy crap, that would be so fun to watch.
Yep, JJ instantly becomes top 3 pick, right? Herbert goes from being on a team where he may be not utilized to his full potential to now we're slinging it all over. He's probably a top 8 or better QB in fantasy. So
and Jordan Addison and Hawkinson, holy crap,
they'll go up
way up.
Although I think for that trade to happen, obviously if you traded Herbert for the 11 and 23, I think it makes some sense too that they probably want a receiver at that deal. I could see them sending Addison, right? But they would do it in a heartbeat, right? If they said, well, we want Addison too, I promise you they would go, yep, done. Because we'll just pick up another wide receiver later. But anyway. That is not our pick, though. That is not what we're saying on this one. So I'm going to roll it to the actual pick that we think is going to happen here. JJ McCarthy is going to be the pick here. I think they panic a little bit. If they can't get any trades going, I think they like JJ McCarthy. JJ wasn't necessarily a guy that was asked to do a lot in college, but he's a leader. He's a natural born leader. From what I can tell, what I can see in is watching him through this whole season. He had nearly 3,000 yards passing, 22 TDs, only 4 interceptions, and I know it was a ground pound system underneath Harbaugh. They won the national championship, beat a lot of good teams, and that defense was legit. So we got to give him some credit there. But he is a little bit stiff when he throws. When he throws it across the middle, it is on a dime. It is on a rope. He is putting it in windows at the college level is solid. Those windows get tighter in the NFL. He's got decent arm strength. Sometimes he's late on his deep ball throws, which can be worked on. I think he underneath with that coaching system and those elite wide receivers, they'll make him better. I think it's a win-win. That's my pick at 5. Your thoughts, Justin?
Well, JJ, I remember the Ohio State Michigan game is always one of the funnest games to watch. I just remember. I'll probably always remember this throw for the rest of my life. It was like 3rd and 12, something like that, and they ran a crosser. I think Rowan Wilson was the receiver, and he just threw a rope to Rowan Wilson, and it looked like it was going to hit the Ohio State DB right in the back of the head. He just trusted this DB's not looking for this ball right now, and he roped that ball right past his ear hole, right on the money. I think JJ McCarthy's a good quarterback. I think, like you said, he wasn't asked to do a lot, but it felt like that's being being a Falcons fan. It was we had Arthur Smith. It was run the ball on first down, run the ball on second down. All right, Desmond Ridder, bail us out on this 3rd and 7. Again, not to compare Atlanta to Michigan, but it felt like whenever Michigan was in a 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, those money downs where quarterbacks make a lot of money, red zone, 3rd down. They asked JJ to be that dude, and 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, he was that dude. And he got him those first downs. And to go 15-0 and play Ohio State, Penn State, what they did in the college football playoff. I get their defense was really good, but he was definitely a key cog in that situation.
And he got better as the season went on, right? If you watched early on, not just his whole college career, but that season last year, he got better. He got more confidence. You could see it in him. His mobility was really good. So it was good. It's fun. It's fun. A lot of good stuff.
Yep.
Moving on to number 6. This is a good one.
This one seems pretty easy too. I think we talk a lot about offensive tackle here as well with Evan Neal not really working out right now. They did cite someone, Jermaine Elamanier. I think he's from the Raiders previously to play the right tackle. Maybe they move Evan Neal inside to guard. Maybe they just keep experimenting with him. Let's be honest, the Giants don't really have a lot on offense. They got rid of Saquon, and they're going to run Devin Singletary back there. They got Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, and who knows if Darren Waller's going to play. Who are we supposed to throw the ball to at this rate? So I think Malik Neighbors makes the most sense. He's real Jamar Chasey to me. He's fast. He's a great route runner. Kid's a freak. So, I think he makes the most sense. And kind of like the Patriots situation, I don't think a lot of these guys are getting drafted on a fantasy football team. I think Malik Neighbors will get a ton of ball. Is this a exciting fantasy football fit? Absolutely not. I don't think Daniel Jones is that guy. I think the Giants, maybe they're interested in a quarterback. Who knows? Maybe they trade up. But for now, we're going to go with Malik Neighbors and just this is probably a top 5 prospect in the draft, and we're going to get him at 6.
Yeah, I think when you look at these top wide receivers, and we know who they are with Marvin Harrison, Neighbors, and Odunze, they're all kind of that 1, 2, 3, or some people say 1A, 1B, 1C. In my mind, I believe that landing spot's crucial, but Malik Neighbors has the highest ceiling right down the road. You put a quarterback around him and with the Giants, whatever. and get somebody that can get him the ball. He at all levels. He runs 4.35. He's fast. He's explosive. He can go up and get the ball. He's got great hands. He's a great leaper. He's a guy that can get you 50-50s. It's just, I mean, they got Jamar Chase comparison with him.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, like with him and like when Jamar Chase was coming out, like I remember watching Jamar Chase tape, and I was like, Jamar Chase has got to be 6'3".
Yeah,
because he just wins all these 50-50 balls, and like that's the same thing with Malik Neighbors. So like, how is he winning these balls? But so when I found out he was 6 foot, I'm like, what?
Yep. It's like, what? No, he's very, very solid. But it's from a fantasy value, you kind of go on the Giants, you're like, oh, it hurts his fantasy value a little bit, unfortunately. But for Dynasty, I think he's still a top pick, and we can and you just go and get him. But
for sure, bet on the talent. Always bet on the talent and the draft capital.
Always. Oops, give a free one there. So, it's okay. The Titans on the clock. Titans, they need an offensive lineman. I know they can maybe try to get some wide receiver, but if they want Levis to do anything, they got to protect him. I know, Mayo Man Levis is a guy that's gonna. He's a big, strong guy, but they got to give him an opportunity, and he was pressured so much last year, so much, running for his life. So bringing in Joe Alt, which is the son of All-Pro John Alt. He's technically sound. He's got good instincts. He's a great leader. Got that NFL pedigree. I think you go right here, right out of the gate.
Yep, I think so too. It seems like they invested a lot around Will Levis, and then invested a little bit in their defense, added L'Jarius Sneed, which I like a lot. I think L'Jarius Sneed was an all-pro guy with the Chiefs, just balled out. So, and then, like, with their offense, they gave Calvin Ridley a ton of money, an absurd amount of money. They already had Hop, who they're paying a lot, and they have Treylon Burks, who was their first-round draft pick 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, they've invested in the wide receiver position. They went and got Tony Pollard. I get it. They have Taji Spears. They got weapons, but to be a good football team, a good real football team, not a fantasy football team, like you have to have good O-line, D-line. Those have to be imperative. And their left tackle right now, I couldn't even tell you who it is. No idea where he played. No idea where he is. They invested in Peter Skoronski last year, who played really well at guard. Maybe you kick him out to right tackle. Right tackle. Maybe leave him at guard. Maybe he becomes an all-pro guard. But you just go there, you put Joel at left tackle, and you just run the ball to the left side the whole game.
So. Yep. And you're going to try to get those guys, your dudes' weapons, right? You're 100% right. Calvin Ridley just got paid a ridiculous amount of money. Really just inflated their wide receiver market. Is what it is, because that's got trickle-down effect with everybody else. Ayuk, who you imagined, and I even heard Sutton and somebody else was holding out. I haven't looked into that. You've just rumor. I'm like, oh wow, everybody wants holding out for trying to get more money here. But it's wild. But yeah, I agree. Titans got to go here. Protect your guy. Try to win some ball games, which in turn will affect some fantasy value. So, on to the next.
All right, we're going to talk about my Falcons. For any Falcons fans that may watch this or listen to this, like, I know you're going to be mad. I get it. Like,
Bear with me. Right?
We haven't had an edge since John Abraham. We had Vic Beasley that 1 year, but we all know how that worked out. My ideal scenario for the Falcons, as a Falcons fan who reads and watches and listens to way too much Falcons stuff, ideally this spot is a spot that we trade out of. We go back to 11 or 15, let someone come up and get Roma Dutse. Again, those trades are kind of hard to predict. I really think these edges are going to slip. I think they're going to slip down to their late teens, early 20s. I think the Falcons have the ammunition to come back up in the late first round, give up their second, third, whatever it may be, and get one of those edges. Because I think they're all so closely grouped together that, I mean, you just pick what's there. I think Mitchell is a difference maker. I think you put him next to AJ Terrell, and you put him next to Jesse Bates, who I love. Jesse Bates was an all-pro safety, one of the funnest players I got to watch last year. Just super fun. Again, our offense, some people are going to be like, well, why don't we pick Roma Dutse? I get it. I think Darnell Mooney is going to be a huge impact. I think he wasn't utilized very well in Chicago. Maybe Matt can give me some feedback on that. I think he's a really good receiver. Rondale Moore would be a fun gadget player. I think this is the year Kyle Pitts and Drake London both break out. I think they're going to be freaks with Kirk Cousins if Kirk Cousins comes back 100% from that Achilles. Keon Mitchell, he's a freak. Kid is nasty athlete. I get he played at Toledo. I think some Daniel Jeremiah says a lot is don't scout the helmet, just scout the player. Yep. This kid is a freak. Like he runs 4.33. Like he's long. Like I think him and AJ Terrell would be a really fun back end duo, especially with Jesse Bates, and it kind of gives you a little bit of leeway with DeMarco Hellmans to develop a little bit of that strong safety, or you play Richard Grant there. But I love him to death. I think he's substantially better than the edges. So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
No, I think you nailed it. This is another area where the Falcons can trade out. This could be one of those things that influences the draft later down. If they wanted to trade out, I think Rome Odunze here would be, from a fantasy guy, right? It's like get Rome Odunze with that offense. This is going to be fun. I totally get that, but you're right. I think there's multiple ways they can go here. This is absolutely one of them. This kid is a phenomenal player. He tackles what he sees. He's a ball hawk. He's fast. He's built. He's going to be a high pick in the draft regardless. I think the Falcons don't go wrong by selecting him here. All right, on to number 9. So if you're not going to select Rome Odunze as a Bears fan, we will. We're going to take him. It makes sense. This, I already mentioned it. He's 1A, 1B, 1C, depending on who you talk to. He is definitely an elite wide receiver out of this class. He's a 4.4 guy, 6'3". He is a contested 50-50 ball, comes down 70% of them. He's just an elite wide receiver. The Bears would be wise to keep building around Caleb Williams here. I know they have DJ Moore. I know they have Cole Kmet. I know they just signed Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's older. I think it's not a bad pickup. They got him for cheap, a sandwich and a cup of coffee. So it was a good pickup. But he's older. I think he's going to be turning 31 this year. So why not go get an elite wide receiver to build around him? It may not be, from a fantasy perspective, the best spot for him because he may not be that number one guy that's going to get force fed as of right now. But you give him a year or two, he very well could be that number one guy, right? This guy's a leader and just a air traffic controller when the ball is up there, man. He's going to go get it. So I would be super ecstatic for them to get him here at number 9.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, like Rome Odunze played with 2 other studs, and he was the stud. He was the stud among studs. Like Jalen, I think Jalen Pope's going to go in the first round. It's close. Jalen McMillan's probably going to go second or third. Like those kids are really good. Yeah. So like, again, like the Keenan Allen thing, like he's on a 1-year deal. So like we get it. We, like you said, like let's give Caleb every reason to be successful. Because if he's not successful in that offense, like, all right, then we don't got our guy because he's got all the weapons. I think the O-line should be good enough to be able to play off of him. Rome Odunze is a freak. So, like, if this was to happen, Rome Odunze goes 9 to the Bears and Malik Neighbors goes 6 to the Giants. That's a tough one to if you're in a 1 QB league and in a rookie draft. That's a tough pick between when you're at the 2 spot, picking between Rome and Malik Neighbors. Like me having the number 2 pick in one of my leagues, I'm probably going to lean Rome Odunze there.
Yep.
I think he should have a quarterback. The kid, he looks like Devontae Adams. That's what the pro crop I've seen a lot is. He's Devontae Adams. He's big. He can play that big slot role. He has one of the best mentors that he can learn from in Keenan Allen, who's probably one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL. And Keenan Allen's a freak with the routes. So I mean, that's just what we're thinking. He can keep learning from them. So,
100% agree. The last thing I'll add is it's possible the Bears could trade out. There's a lot of talk that Bears could trade out at number 9. It's possible that the Bears could take an edge rusher, alongside Sweat. So we'll see what happens. But for us, I think we like this number 9 Rome Odunze. I don't see Rome Odunze falling out of top 10. There will be 3 receivers in the top 10 picks, easy, all day long, every day. So on to number 10.
All right, this next pick, there very hard to do with the Jets. Um, I get it. I get the Brock Bowers thing. I totally understand it. I think Brock Bowers is a top 5 pick, a top 5 player in this draft. He was a man amongst boys at 18 years old at Georgia. Like nobody should be doing that in college football. But the reason your season sucked so bad last year is because Aaron Rodgers got hurt. Like your O line, I get it. You invested in Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses. I don't even know the last time those guys played 16 games. You have Vera Tucker, who I like a lot, and they signed John Simpson too, who I like a lot. They drafted Joe Tippmann last year in the second round. I like that a lot. My biggest thing is go invest in your O-line more. Make sure that Aaron Rodgers is protected. And by the way, you probably have one of the best running backs in the league. Like, let's just use him. Let's piggyback on him. Let him get us to the playoffs, and then let Aaron Rodgers win us a Super Bowl. I think Breece Hall is a freak. Like he should be a top 5 pick in fantasy. That's just totally my opinion. He catches the ball well. He runs the ball well. So the biggest thing is if Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses gets hurt. He's on the right side. Just push Vera Tucker out to right tackle. Put John Simpson in at right guard, and then play with that. I think obviously Trey Fontanu should play left guard, and let's just maul people and let's be great. So that's my thinking. Their defense was super good last year. They have a ton of studs there. Hassan Riddick's gonna eat in this defense. So that's my take, please.
I really don't have much to argue. There's nothing. I mean, this guy's technically sound. He's an instant starter in my mind. I'm with you. Build around Breece Hall. The line was atrocious last year for the Jets. Breece Hall still coming off an ACL the year before did fairly well in that offense. Give him some help. I get it. Brock Bowers is a guy. He's probably the best, and we'll talk about him later. But he's a very good talent. But build around what's going to get you there. Protect Aaron Rodgers. We'll pick up if we need to get another wide receiver. We'll pick one up later in the draft somewhere. But let's get our guys and just go. I feel the Jets are just a couple pieces away. If somehow Aaron Rodgers can get them to the Super Bowl and win with just a few components, oh my gosh, the Jets will be ecstatic. He'll probably be more popular than Namath. I'm just telling you because it's been so long. So anyway, I agree with you 100% here.
And one thing, just to as a Kyle Pitts truther, when we took him at 4th, I was hyped. Kyle Pitts was a generational tight end, whatever you want to call it. It hasn't worked out that great. Yeah. So invest in guard, invest in O-line.
It usually takes tight ends to catch up their draft capital. Does that make sense? Right? It takes them a year or two to get into the system. But anyway, number 11. Oh gosh, I did it again. Number 11. This is the Chargers pick. They get to come back around. This one's easy. We know Harbaugh. They're going to go O-line. I think it just makes the most sense. Just what he's done over the years. They're going to take J.C. Latham, who fits their system very well. He's just an NFL pro-ready guard right now. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. This was just a slam dunk. Plug and play. Move on to the next. It's easy.
Yeah, I think the only pushback I would have is, what are we doing at wide receiver? Who are we throwing to? Are we just going to run the ball every play? And we're just going to do that. That's my thing. Justin Herbert's a dog, but he hasn't been that even when he had 2 very capable wide receivers. That's my only pushback. Is who we throwing the ball to? Is QJ that guy?
Yeah, no, he's not. Harbaugh's the type of guy who needs a guy, not the guy. Does that make sense? He doesn't have to have oh my gosh, this is the number one, whatever, this, that, and the other. He just give me a guy that's going to fit my system and do what I ask and navigate it. And I know he just needs some wide receivers. He's got an all-pro quarterback. That's great. So what if later, bear with me here, what if later, I don't know if they have a day 2 pick or a round 2 pick or not. I can't remember. I'd have to look at it. But they can pick up a Roman Wilson later. right? That I believe is underrated. There's some guys that would fit his system very well that they
They
get
have
later,
their
but
37 still, and they have their 37 pick and their 69 pick. So
okay,
they
yeah,
still.
they'll get a wide receiver. The only thing I can see maybe it would change here because he tried to recruit him um, would be a Brock Bowers. He tried to recruit him at Michigan. He didn't get him. Maybe if Brock Bowers falls this far, he kind of gets the dual blocking and passing. Brock's not the best blocker, but certainly improving. But I could see that. But for me, I'm going. He's going to go O line, hammered out, and on to the next.
Yeah, it would be really fun to see him with the Chargers because that's Jim Harbaugh's Vernon Davis. I think that Vernon Davis was probably one of Jim Harbaugh's first picks, if I
Yeah,
remember correctly.
yeah,
I mean, it
yeah,
would be a super fun pick. But I
yeah,
think you're right. I think they invest in O line, just
yeah.
run the crap out of the ball.
Broncos next on the clock.
Here we go. So Broncos have a lot of holes, to say the least.
They're
Uh,
another team. Who do you select in fantasy football? Right? Who
I,
there
I
isn't anybody. So it's hard
I
to say.
I love Marvin Mims. I loved him since last year. Like when I think he's really good. I don't know if he's the number one. Javonte Williams, I've been a truther since he came out of UNC. We'll see how he does this year coming back fully from that big knee injury. I think he'll have a good year. Um, right now, they're starting quarterbacks Jared Stidham. Um, I don't think that's the move. Bo Nix seems like everybody uses the word game manager very derogatory when it comes to some of these quarterbacks, and like that's not how I see Bo Nix. Like I get it, he's not flashy like Jade Daniels or Caleb Williams, but I don't think that's what Sean Payton wants. I think Sean Payton wants a robot back there. Like, hey, throw the ball here, throw the ball there. This is your read. Hand the ball off. That's what we want the whole time. I just don't think you can go into the season. Same thing with the Vikings situation. You can't go in with Jared Stidham as your guy. Bo Nix should be ready to go at the beginning of the year. He's 23, 24 years old. He's a very smart kid. Uh, I think I think most of these quarterbacks have a shot to be great. It's just dependent on their development and their development in the system, how good their coaches them up. I get Sean Payton doesn't like young guys, but this one makes the most sense. Their defense still has a few studs on there. Offensive line's not terrible. Again, they don't have a lot of weapons. They have Sutton. Maybe they might trade. They have Tim Patrick still. Josh Reynolds, who they signed for the Lions, who's a decent piece. And I think Marvin Mims can be a very reliable receiver. Um, so,
Nope, I agree. To me, this is I careful to say it, I guess, but this is a younger Breeze 2.0. It makes sense to me. This is a taller version, of course, but you nailed it in my mind. He wants a guy that's going to run his system. I think Bo Nix can be a system quarterback. Bo doesn't get enough credit for his magician-like ability to scramble and extend plays. I know he struggled with Auburn, and some people say in Oregon he was like, oh, he's just a system quarterback, and he never threw the ball past the line of scrimmage. But this kid's going to be a gamer. Um, I like him. I like him with Sean Payton. I think they will match very well together. I think this is the best place for him, even. Um, for a start now. And remember, he's an older quarterback for sure. I think he was in college for like 6 years or something like that. It was a long time, but I really like this kid. He's one of my favorite sleeper quarterbacks that you can get later in dynasty, and stash him and see how it goes. But I like it. So with the 13th pick, the Raiders are on the clock, and because all these quarterbacks went, the Raiders panic and they go ahead and get Michael Penix Jr. Um, we see this happen all the time in the NFL. I alluded to it earlier. It's like, oh my goodness, there's like people are going, we got to get him now because we like this guy or this guy, and that guy's gone. We better get him. So we just had a bunch of quarterbacks go really early in this first round, which is crazy. So, um, Washington kid, this kid, he's probably the best deep ball passer. He can send it he can send the ball so deep and so beautiful, 50 yards, flick of the wrist. I'm excited about this kid. You partner him with Adams um, and some other weapons there. He could do very well with the new head coaching setup. So I like Penix. How about you?
Just a little quick tangent, like being from Idaho as we are, big
Yeah.
Boise State fan. That first game when Boise State played Washington, I was like, this guy is murdering us. It felt like our safeties were playing 40 yards.
And still couldn't stop anything.
It still wasn't working. Like he throws a rope, and he can be fun to watch with the Raiders.
Yeah, there is some worry about his injury. I am not worried about injuries. You know, he's had the knee injuries in the past, but he played through a full season. And I'm telling you, I know if anybody watched that Michigan game, the national championship game, they beat him up pretty good. And you know what? He still kept coming out there. He still kept trying to make things happen. And so I was pretty impressed by this kid. So
sure.
On to 14.
Got to talk about the team that I dislike the most now, the Saints.
Okay, the Saints.
So the Saints were kind of an interesting case. I feel like they can go a lot of ways. It feels like they always pick like a random edge and just stick him in there, and a height, weight, speed guy. So I'm going to go opposite. I'm going to just go on the offensive side of the ball. I think Olu is a very good prospect. I think he dealt with injuries this year, where coming into last summer he was gassed up as the OT1. So for him to drop down all the way to 14 for the Saints with Ryan Ramczyk potentially being done and Trevor Penning not being great last year, I think you can move Olu to left tackle and put Trevor Penning at right tackle, maybe where maybe he could suffice a little bit, maybe deal with lesser talented people. I mean, in today's day and age with football, you need two really good bookends, but they did invest a first-round draft pick into Trevor Penning. It just always feels like the last couple of years the Saints have been in purgatory. Like they just put off these cap hits, and they don't want to bite the bullet on it. They want to keep contending, which they have. I mean, it's not super fun to go 8-9, 9-8, but I mean, that's what they continue to do. So, I mean, they still have some guys on the defensive end. They're getting a little bit old in the tooth. Cameron Jordan has been my boogeyman since I've been a Falcons fan. So I think tackle makes the most sense here.
Yeah, I think so too. I kind of feel like they may want to get a quarterback, or they wanted to get a quarterback. They could have been in the market for this, but all those guys are gone now. So it's like, okay, we're not going to worry about that. Let's try to protect our quarterback in Carr, who's been beat up. He was pretty beat up last year, and it was in and out, and just wasn't really efficient. So let's try to protect him. This kid's he is a lockdown pass rush guy. If he gets his hands on you, you're not going anywhere. Super strong, 34-inch long arms. Long arms. He is prototypical. This guy was the team captain last year, and he just high production type of guy. So I think this is a great pick for the Saints.
The only thing that's super weird about him, he's got really small hands, like just tiny hands. Don't know why.
For the 8.5 inches. Yeah, little hands, but
very
strong.
Yeah, super funny.
So, Colts at 15. So
there it is.
This makes the most sense to me. If there's a place that I wanted Brock Bowers to go, it was with the Colts. He could go earlier for certainly, without a doubt. But he'll be with AR5, JT, Pittman. This team is loading up. If people can stay healthy, right? With AR5 was injured last year, kind of made things a little downgrade. But you just add another explosive weapon into this offense, and watch out on the Colts, especially from a fantasy value. Brock Bowers, and just looking at him, watching him, what he does is a generational talent. That's I try not to use that term loosely because everybody uses it every year. Somebody's saying it, but this kid is certainly special. At 6'3", 243, got great hands, got great spatial awareness. Just can get off the ball. He's got pretty good speed with the 4.5 for a tight end. So he separates. He's a jump ball kid too. Can do it all. He was an instant starter for Georgia. Just contributed over and over and over each year. And I would expect the same thing. Instant plug and play. They're going to give him the ball in Indy. So this is a great pick for them.
Yeah, I think this is his floor. Like you said, I think he can go anywhere from 5 to 15. I think this is where his drop would stop. Just like one fun fit for fantasy. I was listening to the podcast this morning. The Rams trading up and get Brock Bowers to play that big slot role for Cooper Kupp when Cooper Kupp is eventually done. Just a fun fit for fantasy. I don't think it'll happen. Again, I think he'll go 5 to the Chargers, which you alluded to, or 15. I think is his floor. So.
Yep, 100%. Seahawks are on the board.
First edge. So this is my edge one. I watched a lot of edges just because Falcons need an edge. Ultimately, I decided to go corner. Laiatu Latu, I think he's real similar to TJ Watt without the injury concerns, obviously. Just crazy amount of moves. Hand usage is awesome. Again, a big thing I feel like in this draft, because of the COVID stuff, was the age thing. He's 23, had to medically had to medically retire, and then ended up transferring to UCLA. His pass rush grades are right on par with the Bosas, who had crazy pass rush grades coming out. The Seahawks, I feel like they could go tackle again, but I just feel like an edge would be really helpful. Bringing over McDonald from Baltimore, you could put him in at strong side or weak side backer and just let him go to work at that 3-4 defense. So I think that's where they go. They have a good secondary. I feel like their offense is still pretty decent. They did sign Sam Howell or traded for Sam Howell, so I feel like maybe they were a dark horse for a quarterback back a couple months ago, but I feel like this makes the most sense fit-wise.
Yeah, agreed. He would probably go a lot higher. It's the medical concerns, medical injury concerns. This kid just has a motor. He just has a motor that will not quit. It won't quit. His effort is 100% all the time. He just gets it done. Those are really the two things, right? The pro and the con. He doesn't know how to quit. That's just bottom line.
The USC game that he played again is so fun to watch because it's just like him like he's a cat and like Caleb Williams is a mouse and he's just chasing him for like 15 seconds on ends. It's so funny.
Yeah, just running around. But yeah, I like this pick for the Seahawks. I think it fits them well. Their offense is pretty well loaded with talent. They get some going stuff on the defensive side. So, but good pick. 17 with Jaguars are on the board. This one's pretty easy for me. They got to go defensive side of the ball. I know there's a whole offensive questions whether Trevor Lawrence is the guy and they need to build around him and so on and so forth. What are they going to do with, that Ridley's out, so on and so forth. But I feel like they got to get some help on the defensive side. And Nate Wiggins is a baller. He's good. 4'2", 6'1", flies around. Long frame. He can backpedal. He's really good in zone. If you watch film on him, he's right where he needs to be. His eyes are correct. This is just a good pickup for them.
Yeah, he's all effort like Laiatu Latu. Like this kid's all legs too. It's so funny. Like
yeah, he is.
He is all legs. My biggest pushback here is we got to see what Trevor Lawrence is, right? What is he? Why don't we take Brian Thomas here? Why don't we take A.D. Mitchell here? Xavier Worthy? Like, why don't we give him something? We're going to go into the season with Christian Kirk as that guy. One thing an idea that would be fun again, right, is that the Bengals said, hey, give us 17, we'll give you T. Higgins.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a fun trade.
Yeah,
what did the Niners do?
You're 100% right. This trade or this pick here is very tradable. I could see that happening for them trading back or for a player or something along those lines, without a doubt.
There are some wide receivers out there like the Ayuk stuff, with him having some kind of connection with Trent Baalke, their GM. Who knows what's going to happen? I think it'd be fun for one of those receivers to get traded on draft night. I think Trevor Lawrence needs more just to see what he is because he's had one good year and other not so good years. So that's my biggest pushback is like they probably need a receiver.
Yep, and they could trade up towards the end because there's still plenty of good receivers too. So, and that day, even going into day 2. So, 18 Bengals are on the clock.
Oh, Byron Murphy, one of my favorite players. The funniest thing about watching Byron Murphy's stuff is they had T'Vondre Sweat, who is a huge person. I think he's like 346, typical nose tackle. But Texas was playing Byron Murphy at nose tackle. They're playing Sweat at either 3 or 5, and they play Byron Murphy at 0, and they just put him head up over the center, which is super funny to me because he's 6'2", 297.
I was just gonna say, yeah, he's not.
He's big, like he's a big human. Like, don't get me wrong, but it's just funny. Byron Murphy has a lot of. I feel like Byron Murphy and Johnny Newton have a lot of similarities to Grady Jarrett. Grady Jarrett was a 5th-round draft pick out of Clemson. Not the tallest guys, but Byron Murphy's a dog. Like he played so well during last season. Like, he was the reason Texas defense was so good. They had such a good defensive line. With the Bengals, they have Trey Hendrickson, who's very good edge. I feel like they do need help at defensive tackle with Sheldon Rankins and BJ Hill being their starters right now. Yeah. Sam Hubbard's decent. They drafted Myles Murphy last year, I think, in the 2nd round. So I think he's decent. I think they can put him there. Again, wide receiver might be a thing with the T. Higgins thing. I just don't know. I don't know if T. Higgins gets traded. It seems like they really like him a lot. They invested in offensive tackle and Trent Brown, so I wouldn't go there. So their O-line's still pretty decent, so I think this is where they go defense.
Yeah, it makes the most sense to me too. Let's load up this. Byron's a very strong kid. He's got really good quickness to him. At 6 foot, 300 pounds, I don't know you can add much more to him, to his frame. But this is a good fit for the Bengals on that front. Get him in front of his linebackers and let him play. So good pickup for the Bengals. 19, the Rams. We talked about potentially maybe they can use this pick and go up and get the tight end. But Dallas Turner sitting there. They got to replace their guy. They're all everything guy, and Dallas Turner makes the most sense. This is to me pretty late for Dallas Turner. He could be. It's plausible that Falcons could take him, all the way up there. So it's just we see players fall every year, and Dallas Turner has fell this far in our mock here. So it ends up in a pretty good spot with the Rams, in my opinion. So great player. It's still a good fit.
Yeah, I would not be mad at all if the Falcons with him. I mean, he has ringing endorsements from Nick Saban and Will Anderson last year. Who I guess those two are really close. So, I mean, he's got a little bit of Micah Parsons to him, I think. Again, there's some things that I'm a little hesitant on him about. I don't know how consistent he can be with his sack stuff, but
yeah,
Sean McVay is pretty good at judging talent. So, I mean, I think with the Rams, he probably – knowing my luck, he's going to pop off and be a 15-sack guy. So,
nope, you're 100%. So Rams go with Dallas Turner. Steelers on the clock at 20.
Steelers, I feel like skill position group wise, not the greatest. They sent Van Jefferson this offseason. They got rid of Deontay Johnson. Freiermuth is still pretty good. I love Washington. Knowing Arthur Smith, that he's going to be there. He's probably going to run a lot of 2 tight end personnel with Freiermuth and Washington, which makes sense. Washington was a freak. So I don't know if investment in that number 2 wide receiver is a huge deal. So that's why I decided to go offensive tackle with Talise Fuaga. I think maybe you could slide Broderick Jones over to left tackle, or you just put Fuaga at left tackle or right tackle. I think you kind of figure that out mid-camp. Their defense is still pretty good. They still got a bunch of guys. They got Patrick Queen back there, who I think is going to be a crazy good fit. So that's why we went with offensive tackle there.
And it makes so sense. You already alluded to it with the Arthur Smith. OC wants to run the ball. Get a big O tackle up there and let them push, and we'll go. They're going to want to. That's kind of the Steeler way, right? We're going to run the ball. There's quarterback questions, with Fields being over there now, with Russell Wilson. Who's going to be that? Right now it's Russell Wilson. We'll see. I have a feeling Fields will take that starting job, but I can't be 100% sure on that. But this is a very good fit for the Steelers. Beef up that line and move on to the next. So
for sure.
Dolphins are at 21. Darius Robinson was the slam dunk pick for me. Their offense, right? Their offense is trying to put up 50 points a game. So can we build up our defense a little bit to try to slow them down so it's not necessarily a track meet, so it's not a 60 to 50 game. And we'll slide the senior in real easy, 6'5", 285 pounds. Let him eat, let him go to work. He's long. He's got all the measurables. He's to me he's a plug and play from the get go.
Yeah, I think this one's pretty easy. I mean, he's a great 3-4 end. And he's a big dude, so pretty easy.
Eagles are on the clock at 22.
I really believe the Eagles probably have one of the best rosters in the NFL. I just like looking at their roster, like they just don't have holes. Like they have a ton of good receivers. They got a quarterback. They have a stud running back. Their O line is always good. Their defensive line is good. They still got Brandon Graham there. They got Bryce Huff. They signed Devin White, who I've always been a big fan of. The only real thing I see is their back end, which still has Darius Slay, who's good, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who's is good, and Reed Blankenship had a good year last year, and they drafted Sidney Brown last year, who was good as well. They have Kylie Ringo, so we just gave them another corner. Just let's see who wins this battle out of James Bradbury and Terrion Arnold. They're played Terrion Arnold at the nickel. I think he can do a lot. He's a prototypical Nick Saban guy, super smart. They do play a lot of off man. They don't really. I feel like Nick Saban kind of tells you if he trusts the guy or not, and I don't know if he totally trusted Terrion and Kool-Aid. Well, they did play a lot of off man, and they never traveled. Like in the LSU game, nobody was trying to follow Malik Neighbors. So I think he's going to be a good pro. I don't think he's going to be substantially greater than be an all-pro guy, but I think he'll be a good fit there.
Yep, agreed. I don't think the Eagles need much on offense with all their weapons. Bringing in Kellen Moore as the new OC, bringing in Barkley. So defensive side of the ball here makes a ton of sense, and I think you could do much worse than Terrion here. He's a good fit for them. He's a scrappy kid. He'll get in there and mess it up with you. So I think it's a good fit.
All right. With this next pick, me and Matt had a real nice discussion about this.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
I think we talked about this. I think this might have been the longest discussion we've ever had on a pick because there's just so many ways you can go with the Chargers because like they could go Brian Thomas because they need a wide receiver. I just don't think a lot of these wide receivers are gonna get pushed up as much. I think there's maybe 4 or 5 that get put in the first round where I think a bunch of them go in the second round and people get crazy happy about trading up for these wide receivers in the second round. So I pitched this idea to Matt. I'm like, what do you just think we just drafted an offensive lineman and say, F it, we're gonna run the ball. We're gonna run the ball every time they just signed J.K. Dobbins, they have Gus Edwards, they have Greg Roman as their OC, and I'm just like, why don't we just put some big dudes out there and be like, we got bigger guys than you, see if you can stop us.
The weird thing for us as we went through this is we tried to look at this from just a different point of view. This is absolutely 100% something Harbaugh would do. He just does things different. He's going to do his way. He's like, you know what? I don't see anybody else I like. I want another offensive lineman. Let's just do it. Get him in there. Let's go. And we are gonna run the ball. I'll get some other guys later. It'll be fine. I could totally see this happening and people just scratching their heads, losing their mind. Like he's doing what? And in some ways, it kind of makes some sense. And I kind of like it because it's different. And you're right. We spent a ton of time on this. So Harbaugh goes with a double O offensive lineman and wow. Okay. Here we go.
So obviously you would put J.C. Latham at guard and let him be an all-pro there. And you would kick Armarius Mims out to right tackle and let Rashawn Slater be the all-pro guy that he is.
Yep.
So that's what our thinking was.
It's an instant. It is instant coffee, instant hot chocolate. Everything's bumped up. It's like, there's your line. Now you can start building around. Now you can start going, okay, where's my receivers? Maybe we can get a younger running back in the later rounds. We already got an all-world, all-pro quarterback. It's like, yeah, all right. And they'll kind of go from there. There's, maybe he even goes, maybe he likes Sanders as a tight end. I don't know. But it's they still have Parham and whatnot. But it's a good pick. I think it's fun, it's creative, and it would be interesting to see if he'll do it.
Yeah, for sure. Cowboys next. This one will be pretty short, simple. They lost Tyron Smith, who that's tough. He was a stud for them past 12 years. I just think they put Graham Barton in. They can put him at center and guard and say,
Yeah.
all right, here's an all-pro guy for 10 years. I think it's pretty easy. I think they bought Tyler Smith out to left tackle, and they just put him in for his replacement. So
Yeah, I agree. This was pick the most versatile guy. We may need a center. We may need a guard. This kid can play. Big kid, strong kid, smart kid. Put him in there to improve that Cowboy offensive line. I'm certain we'll be drafting a running back because they don't really have one. But right, they're trying to get the Super Bowl. They're in win now mode. Dak is may or may not be there after this year, but they need somebody to take control of that line and an easy plug and play. And this is a great fit.
for sure.
Packers at 25. I really like Cooper. I like Cooper here. This kid is just an athlete. He's strong. He's experienced, explosive, and the Packers have everything they need on offense right now. In my mind, they're going to be a fun offense to watch. Let's get the defensive secondary some help. This kid can do. He probably play corner, probably play some safety. He's good. He's one of my favorite players. 4.3 speed.
Matt's secretly a Packers fan now.
No, don't. Yeah, no, I'm not. But they kind of are fun to watch.
This is a fun fit, just because he can play all over the ball. Like he can play all over the field.
Yep. So. Agreed. Easy peasy pick. I hope they pick him, but should be fun.
Yeah, seems like
around the clock. Yeah, he does.
So Jared Verse,
another kid.
BNR. I mean, I think 4 edges go here, but he makes the most sense with the Bucks. I mean, they need an edge. They have 2 good receivers. Offensive line 8 isn't too bad, but they just need someone opposite of Joe Tyrone. I don't think Joe Tyrone is that guy that could really carry the defense. Jared Verse is nasty. Like all his weight that he's put on has been all hard work. Like he is a self-made man. Like he transferred to Florida State from some little college, but he's a stud. Plays hard. Plays the run really well. I think he can be a consistent 7 to 9 sack guy, 7 to 10 sack guy. Be real consistent. Be a leader for you on the field. So.
Yeah, this is another one that fell in the draft. He could certainly go higher. The Packers could even take him from the pick before. I would anticipate again he could be a little bit higher. Maybe a little bit of Kayvon Thibodeau in him, right? That type of a guy. He's going to be a good edge rusher really wherever he goes. But this seems like a good fit for the Buccaneers.
Yep.
So Chop Robinson of the Cardinals makes a lot of sense. Chop had a great combine, just absolutely looks so explosive.
Those Penn State guys are always freaks.
They are. The Cardinals went and got their receiver at 4 with Marvin Harrison Jr. Turn around, let's get somebody on the defensive guy. This kid will be an instant impact. Just another kid with a big motor, wants to just make plays and get it done, out there to prove himself and fun to watch. If you haven't, go watch a little tape. You're talking 6'3", 254 at a 4.4. And I know it's a high 4.4, but come on now, that's ridiculous. So great fit for the Cardinals on defensive side of the ball.
They were to Buffalo. So I think this is probably one of the prime candidates where you could see a Julio Jones type of trade up. I think the Bears are probably the only team willing to trade back this far. If Rome Odunze was on the board, they would have to give them a lot. I mean, that Julio Jones trade, Matt, if you could look that up just so we could talk about the details about that trade when they came up from, I think they came all the way up to 6, and they're at 26 or something like that. They gave up a lot. That trade ended up working out more in the favor of the Falcons than it did the Browns. Julio Jones is one of my all-time favorite players. He changed our offense completely. But the Bills in our mock draft don't end up going up. They stay where they're at. They still get a decent wide receiver, Brian Thomas, who I think clearly is the number 2 behind the 1A, the 1B, and the 1C of those top 3 guys. Brian Thomas had a really good year last year. I think he fits really well. Can run the deep ball. He can do a lot of things run wise. I mean, I think probably the only routes that he did run was probably a slant and a go. And that's fine with Josh Allen because Josh Allen has a rocket. So you just let Khalil Shakir, Boise State guy, run underneath and make his plays. You let Curtis Samuel do the same thing. Let him run those underneath routes. And I think this is the Bills kind of trusting that Dalton Kincaid is going to mature and be a really good tight end next year with let Stephon Diggs go to the Texans. So that's kind of our thinking there.
Yeah, I think Atlanta went up from 27 to 6 to make that that pick, which is incredible to go that far. The investment to do that, but I'm with you. This makes the most logical sense. I will say I'm not sure that Brian Thomas Jr. falls this far. I think as we get closer and closer, he could go up a little bit further. What comes jumps out to me right now is a 4.33 speed at 6'3", 209. That's insane. That's incredibly fast, incredibly nimble. He played on opposite side of Neighbors with Jamar or with Daniels, and you're like, okay, and they were enough to feed everybody. If he does land here, from a fantasy perspective, everybody's racing to get him. His ADP, his draft capital climbs insanely here.
He's a top 7 pick, top 6 pick at that rate.
Yeah, so it's nuts. I know Neighbors gets all the credit, but if you remove Neighbors off this team, I'm telling you that Brian Thomas Jr. would be talking about him way earlier. This kid's just great, and he's fun to watch. So this is a great spot for the Bills, and they may move up to get him. That's like I said, they're like, we may move up to 18 or something like 19 to pick him there.
I think where we start talking about Brian Thomas going off the board is 17 with the Jaguars. I think that's what we were decided between Nate Wiggins.
Yeah.
And with the Jags picking a wide receiver. So I think that's where he could go.
Yep, 100%. And Lions at 29. Again, we talked about a wide receiver. I think Brian Thomas Jr. would have been an interesting fit here for sure. But defensively, it makes a lot of sense. They were nearly in the Super Bowl last year. I think more than half the nation was rooting for him just because it was a great story. But they're going to get a really good corner here in Kool-Aid. Runs a 4.45. He's a smart football player. Got to play with Saban, who is the DB master, and getting him developed for the NFL. So this makes a lot of sense to me. Lions go a defensive player, and this is a good fit for them in the secondary.
Yeah, I really think the Lions do trade out. I think they're a pretty good candidate to trade out, where they have a pretty good roster where they can come back and maybe someone comes up and try to get a wide receiver from that second round up to the first. So.
Yep, 100% could see that a trade out. So,
Ravens.
Yeah, Ravens.
So we got another tackle. I think we ended up having like 7 or 8 tackles at this.
We did.
There's just so many good ones that I think it's just going to push a lot of those good wide receivers out of the first round. I think this makes a lot of sense. They're just going to be like, you know what, we're just going to pick, as the Ravens typically do, we're just going to pick the best guy and put him in there, and he's going to be really good. It always reminds me, like typical Ravens pick was Kyle Hamilton a couple years ago when Kyle Hamilton was dropping to, I think, 14 because he ran a 4.6, and Kyle Hamilton's now an all-pro safety. So it's just super funny. They always draft like really good players just at the back end. He makes a lot of sense at right tackle, plug-and-play guy behind, and just keep investing in Lamar, who
they also picked up Derrick Henry. So
yeah, so we're just gonna run the ball, see what happens. So I think that makes the most sense. Their defense is still really good.
Yeah, this kid super athletic. He can get out and pull, right? If we need to, go up against that second level linebacker or whatnot. This again, 6'8", 322, athletic as all get out. And I really don't. If I were a linebacker, I would not want to play the Ravens. I just can't fathom trying to figure out. Oh my God! They're going to give it to Henry. They're going to give it to Lamar. That 1-2 punch to me was just ridiculous. And I get it. Henry's older. I understand that. I know what you're telling me, but I don't care. I'm telling you, it's going to be interesting. You're like, this is stupid.
He has defied father time for a very long time. So
yeah.
I think he's got one more year to him.
I was just going to say that. I think he's got one more year in him, and this is interesting. I could see the Ravens trying to pick up a wide receiver here. But this makes a lot of sense too. So,
did I just go black?
Oh, there we go. Did you go? Did you? It looks like we lost Justin for a second here.
Sorry,
can you hear us? Can you hear us still?
I can hear you still.
Okay. Well, we'll continue on here. The 49ers picked up there. We've got them picking up Jordan Morgan, another offensive lineman. Makes a lot of sense there in win now mode. Get Brock Purdy. You got 1 year, or give him some help. You got, I'm going to say 1 year, maybe 2 with CMC. Right. Give them what they need to take that next step. Jordan Morgan is a smart kid out of Arizona, big kid, 6'5", 310. Super athletic, does well with his combo blocks. He's patient. Just seems to fit their offensive scheme in my mind. So
yeah, they just need to replace McKivitz. Is that their right tackle right now? I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest thing. So
I don't know what the 49ers would do here as well. I'm not really sure. It just seems like an O lineman is the right fit.
Yeah, they don't got a lot of holes. So this next pick, before Matt hopefully goes to the next slide. All right.
Sorry.
No, big deal. We had this big banter about, oh man, I was like, who do the Chiefs go with? It's like, they got to go wide receiver, right?
Yeah.
We're going back and forth on receivers, and I was just like, who do they like? It's like they have Marquise Brown, which is the speed guy, so they don't need a speed guy. So that kind of takes Xavier Worthy out for me. And I was just kind of going back and forth between 2 players, and Matt's like, man, I hope you pick this one guy. And I'm like, oh man, is it A.D. Mitchell or is it freaking Ladd McConkey? And I was like, we're going to go Ladd McConkey because I think he fits what they want to do. I think he can do a lot of what Travis Kelce does really well and just find open spaces in the zone. And Matt brought up a good point when we were talking. He's like, I don't think the Chiefs really run routes. I think they just say, go find space and get open and turn around. So I think that's what Ladd's going to do. I think he.
Oh, that lose you, Justin. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. We both agree Ladd is a special kid. He's not necessarily the elite guy or fits in that elite bucket, but he's a 4-3 guy, 4-3-9, 4-4 guy. Just go watch the Georgia tape. The kid just gets open. He makes every catch. He can just navigate the whole field. I don't know why they would, but the 49ers could take Ladd for sure. It's very possible. But if you put him on the Chiefs with the Ray Rice incident and all that stuff that's going on, he becomes an instant starter. And I think in dynasty or rookie drafts, this kid will climb up, and it's fun it'll be fun to watch.
For sure. And then we're gonna give you one more bonus pick for the Panther fans out there.
Absolutely. So the Panthers, they gave away a lot, and they just need real wide receiver help. You just take best available wide receiver here, and Mitchell seems to be that kid to me. And Mitchell could go much earlier than this. I think this would be a pretty good gift to the Panthers. 6'2", 4.35 speed, lightning fast out of Texas. Get him in space, let him work. But I who are the receivers again, Justin, for the Panthers? They just don't have very much.
They don't have, I think Thielen was their guy last year.
That's my thing. I can't remember their names. You're right, Thielen and some other folks. Like,
they have good receivers. I don't think they have a one. They have Deontay Johnson, who I think is a really good slot. They have Adam Thielen, who had a really good last year. That they changed OCs and then he kind of dropped off the face of the earth. And then they drafted Mingos last year in the second round, who was gassed up a lot at Ole Miss, and everybody's like, he's the next AJ Brown. But like, just help Bryce Young out, figure out what he is. Like, you don't want this to be a Justin Fields situation where you never surrounded him with talent and he just kind of flares out. So,
absolutely. Well, that is our mock draft. We're excited to have it. We're excited for it to come. Christmas is coming. Presents will be opened up, and I'm sure we'll be excited about and disappointed about some of these folks that are selected. And that's the way the NFL works. We will probably we will after the draft. There you go. We will be after the draft. We will have our breakdown. We'll get right into dynasty. Early drafts, rookie drafts, startup drafts is what I was trying to say, and have that breakdown for you. We're excited to do this. It's just fun to talk about football, and we just kind of go from there. So, Justin, anything else before we sign off for this afternoon?
It was fun. Like, I hope Falcons fans aren't mad at me for not drafting the edge. Like, I get it. Like, I'm gonna be happy either way. Like, I think I really trust our coaches, Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot, to pick the right guy. Again, I really hope we trade out because I think someone's going to really want Roma Odunze, one of those wide receivers, one of those tackles. That second tackle off the board, I think, is going to be really valuable. So,
agreed, 100%. Well, I hope everyone's draft wishes come true, and we will see you after the draft. Everybody enjoy their afternoon, and we'll talk soon.